Thank you. This will be in Ray's absence. I'll be taking place as chair, so if I step out of line, put me back in place. Otherwise, thank you all for attending tonight's meeting. Before we begin, I'd like to state that the Planning Commission meetings are open to the public in person and via Microsoft Teams streaming application. All Planning Commission meeting information can be found on the Town of Monument website. The Planning Commission's role is to conduct public hearings and to make recommendations to the Town Council regarding town or land use matters in the Town of Monument. Each commissioner agrees to a non-partial, objective, and fair review which includes no prejudgment of the project. Should a commissioner wish to disqualify him or herself for any conflicts of personal or financial interest in this matter before us tonight, please say so now. For those attending tonight who wish to provide comment on agenda items, you may speak to the commission during the public comment sections of the agenda. Those who attend in person will be called upon first or asked to come to the podium and sign in with their name and address. Those attending via Microsoft Teams will be called upon next and are asked to utilize the raise your hand option and unmute your microphone when called upon. We ask that if multiple people have the same comment, only one person speak on the same subject. Again, thank you for attending. We will now begin the meeting with roll call.
Thank you, Vice Chair Peterson. We'll start with Chair Egley, who is absent from this meeting. Vice Chair Peterson.
Here.
Commissioner Baumer.
Here.
Commissioner Hatch.
Here.
Commissioner Parr, who is absent from this meeting, and Commissioner Trujillo.
Here.
Thank you. That concludes roll call.
Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Add to approval of minutes. I move to approve the minutes from May 13th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting. Any comments on approval of minutes prior to a second?
Commissioner Trujillo, I second.
Great. Roll call.
Thank you. Vice Chair Peterson.
Yes.
Commissioner Baumer.
Yes.
Commissioner Hatch.
Yes.
Commissioner Trujillo.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 4 in favor, none opposed.
Any new business to discuss? Looks like nothing on the agenda. Okay. On to public hearings or recommendations. Open that to chair.
Right, good to go.
This is a request for approval of the major amendment of Falcon Commerce Center Planned Unit Development Phase 2.
Thank you. One moment. I will just connect. All right. I think we're ready. Thank you. Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners, good evening. Thank you. Of course, my name is Jenna Gordy. I'm the senior planner in the planning department. And as mentioned, this evening, we are considering a major PUD amendment for Falcon Commerce Center Phase 2, as well as the final PUD plan for the Santa Fe Meadows subdivision. The proposed major amendment to the Falcon Commerce Center Phase 2 preliminary PUD, it modifies the permitted use framework for Area D to allow both detached and attached single-family residential uses instead of the previously approved multifamily use. The amendment is necessary based on the density reduction of more than 20% of the area and a desire to use a mix of housing products and not just multifamily. Approval of the amendment would facilitate the Santa Fe Meadows final PUD project considered this evening as well. The final PUD plan proposes development of a 205-lot residential community on approximately 43 acres, consisting of 135 single-family detached homes and 70 townhome units. The plan represents approximately 59% fewer units than previously approved. The project incorporates the mix of housing products together with integrated parks, open space, and trail linkages to the regional Santa Fe trail system. Supported by existing infrastructure and designed in accordance with town standards, the final PUD plan is consistent with what would be the newly approved preliminary PUD as well as the original PUD. Each request, both the major PUD amendment and the final PUD plan, are considered separately based on relevant review criteria, finding of fact, and then forwarded to Town Council for consideration with recommendation of approval from Planning Commission. Of course, pursuant to Chapter 18 Land Development Code, the appropriate public notices were conducted, both posting on the property as well as a mailing was conducted. The surrounding properties include PUD to the north. To the south, you'll find United States Air Force Academy. To the east, we have CDOT open space as well as the Interstate 25 corridor. And to the west includes the Monument Water Treatment Center. So for an overall look at the Falcon Commerce Center Phase 2, you'll find that on the left side. The Santa Fe Meadows final PUD that you'll see on the right constitutes area within Area D on the lower portion of the overall Falcon Commerce Center depicted on the left there. The project proposes a main entrance at the development via Terrazzo Drive. That main drive will turn into Santa Fe Meadows Drive. And as mentioned, approximately 135 single-family detached lots ranging in width from 50 to 60 feet and 120 foot width in depth, 120 feet in depth. The single-family detached lots are designed to the west of Terrazzo Drive, and the single-family attached are designed on the east. All units include garage access options, and the lots are fully parkable with driveways. The cul-de-sac, if you're looking on the left-hand side image, the cul-de-sac southern termination point of Santa Fe Meadows Drive, it does provide a circular connection back up to the north via Wayfinder Point. The overall circulation of the roads results in 2 cul-de-sac turnarounds together with 5 internal connection roads. All internal public streets serving the detached dwelling units are standard residential 50-foot right-of-way widths, allowing for on-street parking and sidewalk on both sides of the streets, while the local streets serving the townhome units on the east side are 30-foot in width and don't permit on-street parking. Although additional parking throughout the development includes 6 parking pods, they're kind of strategically located within like walking distance of other amenities like parks, open space, mail area, and otherwise. The development includes internal sidewalk connections linking cul-de-sacs and rows of homes to adjacent streets and open space, as well as 2 connections to the Santa Fe Trail. Those are included on the south and the west sides of the property. And regarding those Santa Fe connections, coordination with El Paso County regarding the construction and maintenance of those trails will be captured in a license agreement. And the executed copy of that agreement would be provided to the town at the time of construction document submittal. So in considering these 2 requests, there are 2 relevant code sections. The first listed there is in regards to the major PUD amendments. Ultimately, the Land Development Code defines a list of elements that would characterize a minor PUD amendment, and the code defines that if anything is not listed as a minor PUD amendment, that change would then be considered a major. And then the second code item listed there, 1803.460, is just those requirements for final PUD plan. So the project details include a bike route. The route is located throughout the development, and the plans clearly mark those, and the development will have pavement striping throughout to provide some directional guidance. Benches are strategically located throughout landscaped areas and provide trail corridors to support pedestrian use and connectivity. The plan also includes parks and open space, consistent with the Land Development Code, which are linked to the regional Santa Fe Trail as mentioned, and an internal sidewalk network. The open space and parks consist of approximately 3.1 acres, which meets the requirement for the proposed 205 development units. This slide I wanted to highlight, just looking back here, you'll see on the right figure on the right, it shows one of the larger park areas within one of the tracks. So I wanted to also add this additional slide just to highlight the other the other park section that also includes that link to the Santa Fe Trail. The park includes playground equipment, turf areas, shaded seating, along with a central open space and gathering areas. This is part of Tract E, and it's on the west side of the development. Overall, for the development, there's approximately 7.45 acres of informal open space. Those are provided throughout the development, trail system, main park areas, and small pocket amenities as well. So this is a clip of the product details, and overall the layout of the development meets the Land Development Code standards, the preliminary PUD requirements, and the Falcon Commerce Center design standards. The proposal meets the required 20-foot setback from the Santa Fe Trail property on the west by providing a 60-foot setback there as measured to the closest lot. A minimum 50-foot setback is maintained on the east, where the development is adjacent to property owned by the Department of Transportation. A 50-foot setback is also maintained on the south as required by the preliminary PUD for residential uses developed in Area D, and the setback for individual lots are identified on the typical lot plans. Dwellings range in height from 29 to 32 feet, with 70 feet being the permitted maximum height per the preliminary PUD. The lot coverage varies by lot type per the preliminary PUD maximum lot coverage for residential uses and is allowed to be determined by the final PUD. The proposed maximum lot coverage for the attached single-family units on the east side is 70%, and for the single-family detached lots on the west is either 45% for the standard lots or 50% for the smaller lots. So dwelling orientation fronting I-25 right-of-way was found to be thoughtfully designed by situating the side of the homes toward the I-25 corridor such that the front or the back door wasn't oriented toward the highway. Dwelling units are set back they're also set back 50 feet from the additional open space area on that east side. As you'll see here, overall architecture for the units is an attractive mix of cohesive designs, each with varied roof lines, pitches, and horizontal articulation. The materials include stucco, stone, brick, asphalt shingles, and classic lap siding. Overall design for the regulations for residential units in Falcon Commerce Center are dictated by the covenants and restrictions, together with design guidelines recorded in 2021. Each dwelling unit includes a fully parked lot, as mentioned, which meets the Land Development Code section. And the proposed single-family dwelling units will have a 2-car garage and a 2-car driveway. The applicant's detached Cadence collection has an option for a 1-car garage, but will also have a 20-foot driveway, which meets the 2-space parking requirement. The townhomes that are found on the east are considered multi-unit dwellings and will either be 2 or 3 bedrooms. So the requirement for that per the code is 1.5 spaces per 2-bedroom dwelling units and 2 spaces for 3-bedroom dwelling units. Of course, all of the townhomes have a 2-car garage and a 20-foot driveway. The landscaping for Santa Fe Meadows provides a combination of formal parks and open spaces described in internal trail corridors distributed throughout the development, which supports both active recreation and connectivity. Landscaping utilizes primarily native and drought-tolerant species and more formal plantings and park and activity areas with more naturalized vegetation along the site perimeter to transition to surrounding conditions and uses. Turf areas are limited in non-functional turf spaces to reduce water uses. Consistent with applicable standards and required landscape buffers are provided along the development boundaries. Maintenance responsibility is shared between the Metropolitan District, Homeowners Association, and individual lot owners, ensuring the consistent upkeep and long-term functionality of landscape improvements. A wildfire hazard analysis for the Falcon Commerce Center property was prepared in 2020 as part of the original environmental assessment, supporting the initial PUD zoning and sketch plan submittals. At that time, the Colorado State Forest Service Wildfire Risk Assessment Portal, I think it's pronounced RAP, classified the majority of the site as having a moderate fire intensity risk, with smaller areas of both low and high intensity. Since development has occurred within Falcon Commerce Center, particularly north of Jackson Creek, conditions have shifted a bit, with those areas now largely characterized as the lowest intensity, with some remaining areas of low and moderate risk. Under the WRAP mapping, the Santa Fe Meadows portion of the site is identified as having moderate wildfire intensity near the Jackson Creek corridor, transitioning to low intensity toward the southern portion of the property. The applicant has also submitted the environmental assessment report prepared by Bristlecone Ecology, dated April 2020, for the overall Falcon Commerce Center. The report evaluated categories of vegetation, aquatic resources, noxious weeds, wildfire resources, cultural resources, and toxic metals. The report concluded that development of the site would result in unavoidable disturbance to the primary foothill grasslands. However, impacts are anticipated to be generally low to moderate due to the moderate quality of resources and the avoidance of higher value areas such as the Jackson Creek riparian corridor. The applicant also provided a traffic generation analysis for the project. The report was prepared by SM Roca, dated March 23rd of this year, 2026. It contemplated 205 dwelling units within Area D of the Falcon Commerce Center preliminary PUD. Based on the conclusions presented in the analysis, the previously approved traffic study for Falcon Commerce assumed the development of 640 mid-rise multifamily dwelling units, or 350,000 square feet of light industrial in the same development area, which proposed considerably more than what is planned with this development application. As such, of course, the traffic generation analysis concluded that the proposed traffic is expected to create no negative impacts in the surrounding roadway networks and the proposed site access, nor at the intersection of Terrazzo Drive and Baptist Drive, and it is in compliance with Falcon Commerce Center traffic impact study. The final drainage report was provided by the applicants. The report was done by Classic Consulting. It was dated May of this year. Concluded that stormwater drainage improvements have been prepared in accordance with all applicable master drainage studies and previous reports, as well as the Colorado Spring drainage criteria manuals. Stray site runoff, storm drainage, and appurtenances, I can never say the word we're passing, will not adversely affect the downstream and surrounding developments. Runoff from the Santa Fe Meadows filing 1 and 2 will be collected. To back up a little bit, filings 1 and 2 are both within this development. Filings 1 and 2 are split essentially horizontally down the middle, the top, and the bottom. So I don't think I mentioned that. Runoff will be collected in a proposed public stormwater system and routed to 2 proposed permanent public detention and stormwater facilities. A portion of the developed site drains across a grass buffer for water quality treatment. The treated runoff from these facilities is to be released into the natural and existing downstream drainage corridors. Based on the current data and analysis included in the applicant's May 26 report, town staff would concur with this assessment. So overall, the United States Air Force Academy, they are, of course, one of our review agencies, and they were included in the review mostly because of their proximity to the Santa Fe Meadows project and the military training area. And within the review, they expressed concerns of long-term land use compatibility, including noise impacts, operational safety, stormwater runoff, trespassing, and potential impacts due to future military aviation activities. United States Air Force Academy, or USAFA as we know, noted that military training activities within the Jacks Valley included pyrotechnics, artillery simulations, helicopter operations, drone activities, and other intensive exercises that may generate noise, vibration, dust, and lighting impacts for future residents. Additional concerns were raised regarding increased stormwater runoff to the USAFA property and the potential trespassing adjacent to the installation boundary. In response to these comments, the applicant has coordinated with USAFA and incorporated several mitigation measures to the proposed development. The applicant has agreed to record the avigation easement on the final plat. It will also include a USAFA review disclosure note on the plat identifying the potential military operations impact. As well, military disclosures will be incorporated into the homeowner's covenants, and future purchase agreements will ensure ongoing notice to the applicants, or excuse me, to the property owners. USAFA provided the applicants so kindly a noise report from November of 2025. It related to the training area to assist the applicant in finalizing their noise analysis, and that noise analysis was required as part of residential development in Area D in accordance with the preliminary PUD. As required, the applicant submitted the overall geohazard report for Falcon Commerce Center that was prepared by CTL Thompson Incorporated, dated February of 2020. The geotechnical summary indicates that no major geological hazards were identified that would prevent development of the site, although conditions such as expansive soils, shallow bedrock, and groundwater will still need to be assessed through standard engineering design practices, as groundwater was encountered across much of the site at various depths, particularly in the southern portion, which are expected to fluctuate seasonally. The town engineer's review of the submitted documents culminated in approval of all technical plans, together with a requirement to submit a geotechnical report with the construction documents in order to address the aforementioned presence of shallow groundwater in proximity to the proposed detention ponds. Such submittal for that required document has been included in our final slide for a potential recommendation language as a possible condition of approval or suggested conditional approval. So the review criteria and recommendation of each application, both the major PUD amendment and the final PUD plan, is based on criteria set forth in the Land Development Code as always. So pursuant to section 1803-470B of the Land Development Code, all amendments to a PUD which don't qualify as a minor amendment are again a major amendment. So staff evaluated the submitted application against these minor amendment criteria, and those include elements such as density, building location, setbacks, lot size, street alignments, items like that. And staff evaluation determined that the request can't be categorized as a major amendment, and as such is a major and considered by Planning Commission and then Town Council. So the items to call out is namely criteria 3, 7, and 8, and I've shown these here in the slide. Number 1 or 3 rather being density. And so the density of any permitted use area shall not be increased administratively except where density transfer between use areas involves no more than a 20% increase. This section A is a little bit non-applicable. So moving on to section B, it lists here that there is no change in dwelling type. And in this case, we have the applicant has requested a change in dwelling type. We have the request from multifamily to now single family, and thus the amendment would be classified as a major amendment. Number 7 highlights the decrease in dwelling units. A decrease of the number of dwelling units in a use area of up to 20% would be considered a minor amendment, together with no change in the dwelling unit type. So this particular decrease in density is, if I recall, 59% request in density decrease, and we are also changing the dwelling type. So those two together would push this into a major amendment category. And additionally, number 8, just kind of add to it, it says text changes, non-substantial changes to the text approved in the final PUD as determined by the director are allowed when such changes are not substantial. Well, ultimately, the text changes that are required for the requested amendments, they would be making substantial. So mostly sections number 3 and 7 are relevant, and then supported by the text change requirement in number 8. So on this slide, following a presentation, I always like to provide some language for recommended motions. They include the request or the recommended motion to forward either approval or denial of the preliminary PUD major amendment. And then the second one there is, of course, the recommendation of approval or denial of the final PUD plan. And you'll see there the 2 conditions of approval that I listed. Obviously, number 1 would be the approval of the final PUD would have to be contingent upon the approval of the major PUD amendment. And number 2 is the requirement for that geotechnical document to be submitted with construction drawings as well. So I've included those there for your ease. That does conclude my presentation. No doubt the applicant has quite a bit of additional detail to add, but I am happy to answer any questions at this stage or come back to the podium if you'd like to hear the rest of the information.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Andrea Barlow. I'm with NES, or a local land planning firm, and I'm here representing Elite Properties and also Classic Homes, who are underneath Elite, and we have representatives of Classic Homes here today. So this is our team. Steve Schlosser is here from Classic Homes, as well as Kim Sandoval. Online, we have Tom Blanc, who is the Falcon Commerce Centre owner's representative, and he has been guiding this project through its development process from the beginning. Myself, Kyle Campbell with Classic Consulting, who are the civil engineers. And then also online, we have Brandon Wilson from SM Rocha, who are traffic engineers, and Michael Hancard from Hancard Environmental, who are acoustical consultants. So just to provide some context, I'll try not to repeat too much of what Jen has already said, but providing some additional context. So the Falcon Commerce Centre is the area outlined in yellow on the left, and our site that we're talking about today is the area in the dashed red line, and then on the right it's kind of a broader context of the town of Monument. It is its most southern point of the town, and it is surrounded by the Air Force Academy on the south side, and also the Monument wastewater treatment plant on the and Denala plant on the west, and then the highway is really running along the whole east side of Falcon Commerce Centre. So I just wanted to kind of backtrack and kind of talk a little bit about how we got here over the past 6 years. It's gone quickly. We've done a lot in that time. So it actually started with this site back in the 80s when it was annexed into the town. And at that time, it was zoned planned industrial park for all industrial development. In August 2020, we came forward with a proposal to rezone the property, or the remainder of the property. At that point, the pilot had already been approved separately. So 204 of the 214-acre Falcon Commerce Centre was part of that PD zoning and sketch plan. In October 2020, we processed the phase 1 preliminary PD site plan, which is the area where the UPS is located, and also the Quick Trip and adjacent property. The UPS Distribution Centre processed their own final PD site plan and plat in January and March 2021. And then Quick Trip followed with a final PD site plan and plat that they processed in February 2022. Shortly after that, Eagle Rock processed their own final PD site plan and plat in June. And then we came forward with those were on the back of the PD zoning and sketch PD plan. Then we came forward with a phase 2 preliminary plan to address the remainder of the sketch plan area. And that has progressed somewhat in that filing 2 final plat related to the extension of Terrazzo Drive to Jackson Creek Parkway and utilities that are under the road. The filing number 3 final plat proposed the extension of Terrazzo Drive over Jackson Creek Parkway. Sorry, Jackson Creek, not Jackson Creek Parkway, I beg your pardon. Filing number 4, final PUD plan and plat were for 2 industrial buildings, which were approved in January last year. And then most recently in May, Alpine Buick dealership, final PUD and final plat, which you guys all heard was approved by the town council. So it's been a long process, so gradually chipping away at the various parcels in accordance. Everything so far has been in accordance with the PD zoning sketch plan and also with the phase 2 preliminary PUD plan. A lot of infrastructure has been invested in this site. I won't go through this in detail, but there are various utility and infrastructure improvements that have taken place, as well as a contribution to the new roundabout. Initially it was proposed as a traffic signal. Contribution was made for that. CDOT changed its mind, decided to build a roundabout instead, but that contribution came from all surrounding landowners. And then, as noted before, the extension of the road across Jackson Creek has also been constructed. Again, substantial investment to get us to where we are today. So just to recap on what the PD zoning and sketch plan looked like, it is oriented the wrong way. just so it fits on the slide better. It's a total of 214 acres, as noted. 10 of that was the pilot. Mix of uses proposed at that time were civic, commercial, industrial, institutional, medical, office, open space, residential, warehouse, and distribution. So really just a mix of industrial and commercial uses, moving away from the pure industrial zoning that had previously been on the property for many years, and also introducing the option of residential use in that south area in yellow, area D. That proposed at the time for up to 640 units or 350,000 square feet of non-residential, and the permitted height across the entire sketch plan area at that point was 100 feet. So moving on to the phase 2 preliminary plan, as I noticed, various areas were approved separately outside of this preliminary plan. And we went through significant discussions on this preliminary plan. In the meantime, between the sketch plan and this plan moving forward, the town had become a lot more kind of active and sensitive to development projects in the area. The Save Monument Group had formed. And so we met with them and the town staff to discuss what the best uses were for this site moving forward, while at the same time wanting to protect what had already been approved. So with that, there were multiple changes to the extent, type, and location of industrial uses, which was the hot topic at the time. We agreed to remove all industrial uses from Area B and only allow them in Area C and D. At that time, Area D was identified for multi-residential only, with a permitted density of up to 270,000 square foot of non-residential and 500 units of residential, being the multifamily. So there was a reduction there from what the sketch plan had originally proposed based on our discussions. And also we reduced the permitted height from 100 feet to 70 feet. So this preliminary PUD plan really is the plan that we have been basing all the proposals that have been coming forward to you on since that was approved. And at that time, it was deemed compliant with the town's comprehensive plan, which is still the same comprehensive plan today. So as noted, we are processing a major amendment to the approved Falcon Commerce Centre Phase 2. That's to bring a detached and attached single family residential uses into the permitted use table. That's the only change we're proposing. I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then concurrently, obviously, we need that change to support the final PUD plan for Santa Fe Meadows, which is the 205 lot single family and single family attached residential project. So I want to talk first about the major amendment to the preliminary PUD plan. This is what the approved preliminary PUD plan use table says today. And this is what we're changing it to. It moved down on the table because it's alphabetical, but we included all of the single family detached and single family attached that we are proposing, kept the multifamily intact, and they were the only changes we've made to the PUD plan. We didn't change the number of allowed units and we didn't change the density. So talking about why it's major versus minor, Jenna went through that in some detail. We did argue it at the time, but the reasoning is because of the change in dwelling type. We have added a dwelling type. It currently only allows multifamily. We have added single family. I don't believe that this amendment is changing the density. We haven't made any changes to those allowed densities or uses in that area other than adding the single family detached and attached, which then accommodates this project moving forward, which does reduce the density fairly significantly. On the final PUD plan, I just want to talk first about use and density and height. So as noted, 205 lots with 135 of those being the single family detached, which are on the west side of the main road that's coming off Terrazzo, which is called Santa Fe Meadows Drive. And then the townhomes are quite clearly shown them. They're smaller lots on the east side of that main road. So they're the lots that are closer to the highway. There is an open space parcel between those lots and the highway, but we have purposely oriented them so that they are sideways on to the highway, not fronting onto them. And the landscaping and grading of the property provides the required setbacks and buffering for those properties for the noise perspective. And as noted by Jenna, we have done a noise report, which I'll talk about. So we are proposing a 59% reduction in density, then that was approved in the preliminary PUD plan, as well as introducing single family residential lots, which are for sale, as opposed to the multifamily residential, which would likely have been at the level we were proposing, would have been apartments for rent. We are also, with this project, removing the possibility of warehouse and distribution in this location and in the remainder of the Falcon Commerce Centre, because the only parcels that are left to develop are in Area B, and they do not allow any industrial development. The maximum building height we are proposing is 35 feet, so substantially less than the 70 feet allowed. And also we have honoured the 50-foot landscape setback on the south boundary per the preliminary PUD plan. So the preliminary PUD plan proposed a 25-foot setback, landscape setback on that south boundary. But if residential were proposed, it required a 50-foot. So we doubled that buffer setback there to account for the fact that residential may have more impacts from the Air Force Academy. That was the accommodation we made at that time, and I'll talk more about the additional accommodations we've made moving forward. So talking about parks and open space, we have the 1.35 acre park with playground, turf area and shaded seating in the brighter green there and that northwest portion of the property. And then there's just short of 2 acres of open space with trail and seating in the centre in the community, and a total of 7.45 acres surrounding the property, and connected throughout by trails and sidewalks, so you have good connectivity. The yellow circles there are showing the connections to the Santa Fe Regional Trail. There is also in that adjacent to that west trail access, there is also proposed some adult exercise equipment adjacent to the trail. And then between the townhomes, there are smaller amenity areas because they front onto each other. So there is separation with a green space amenity area between the townhomes. Moving on to talk about access and parking, all lots will have fully parkable driveways at a 20-foot minimum depth. All internal public streets are, as noted, the standard 50-foot right-of-way that allows for on-street parking, and they do have sidewalks on both sides. The townhomes will have vehicular garage access from the 30-foot wide private streets. They don't allow on-street parking, and pedestrian access to the townhomes is via sidewalks that connect to the front of the home. So the rear of the home is really just for vehicular access. And as they don't allow parking, there are a total of 25 guest parking spaces within the townhome area in a number of different locations. But there is parking allowed, like I say, on the streets internal to the remainder of the development. So here's some product information just so you can get an idea of what Classic are proposing to build here. So there's a number of different collections proposed. The Classic collection are on what we would consider pretty standard 50 by 120 foot or 60 by 120 foot single family lots. And the home sizes range fairly significantly because it will depend on whether they're a single story ranch versus a 2-story. They can be as small as 2-bedroom all the way up to 6-bedroom, with options for 2-car or 3-car garages. As is the case with all of Classic's developments and all their product lines, except the townhomes, which I'll talk about, they include a variety of elevation options which customers can choose from with different architectural styles, materials, and color schemes. But they do have, as I'll mention later in their covenants, a requirement to not repeat colors, not repeat styles, and so on and so forth. So there are architectural controls on what choices can be made next to another existing home. And there are pictures there showing examples of the different styles of architecture, the different color schemes, as well as the different building heights and 2-story versus 1-story. The Cadence collection that allows for both attached and detached product in the overall collection, and you can see some of the kind of duplex style attached product in Monument Junction. But in this location, we are only proposing single family detached lots, so they will all be detached lots for the Cadence collection. They're slightly smaller lots and slightly smaller homes on the whole, with a 2 to 4 bedroom option and a 1-car and 2-car garage option. And again, the variety of elevation options, colors, and styles are available. The 25 collection is a newer collection that's why you've got renderings that are kind of more hand-drawn, because this really is the first time it will be developed anywhere. So this is a 35-foot wide lot and 100-foot deep, so it's a narrower lot, trying to, in the attempt to make these entry-level homes more affordable. Again, slightly smaller, 2 to 4 bedroom options, 2-car garages, and again, the variety of options with the styles, materials, and color schemes. And then on the townhomes, these are a bit more standard in that there are 3 different, 3-unit and 4-unit options, which have 2 different elevation treatments per unit type. So 4 elevation treatments in total. Here's an example of the elevation treatments, and these will be a good size, smallest being 2-bedroom with a loft up to 3-bedroom with a loft, and all will have a 2-car garage and a driveway for parking. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the parking on driveways because I know that has been a question in the past, so we've got a little diagram later on to talk about that. So I want to talk a little bit about the residential design standards. So the Falcon Commerce Centre does have recorded design standards, recorded covenants and design standards. The design standards aren't recorded, the covenants are, but the design standards really are focused on industrial, non-residential type development. And it specifically says in there, if there is residential development, then they will have to develop their own residential design standards. So these standards are included on the PUD cover sheet as our proposed standards moving forward. So as I noted, there will be covenants, conditions and restrictions on this project, as there are with all Classic communities, which strictly control aspects of design, including overall lot design, such as massing, accessory structures, patio and deck design, placement, and the use of any play or sports equipment in yards. The architecture in terms of exterior materials, finish and color, and detailing, and requiring, as I noted, the diversity in floor plan and elevations, and also color schemes, as well as controlling exterior lighting. Landscaping, there are certain limitations, and there are requirements that relate to the use of decorative beds and vegetable gardens and all sorts of things, synthetic turf. So that's all controlled by the covenants. Parking is also controlled. The restrictions on overnight parking and things like inoperative vehicles and vehicle repairs, and also that the restrictions apply to all vehicles. It doesn't really matter what type of vehicle you have, but the restrictions are across the board. The lot landscaping will meet the town's requirement, and xeriscaping is included. The developer will install the landscaping on the townhome lots and will maintain those moving forward. And they will also install the landscaping on the 35 and 40-foot wide single family lots, but the ongoing maintenance of those will be with the homeowner. And then the homeowners on the bigger 50 and 60-foot wide lots will be responsible for installing their own landscaping, but Classic do have landscape designs that they can use which already meets their requirements. And next couple of slides just show examples. Obviously the colors are not quite representative of actual landscaping, but it just shows kind of the design and distinguishes between different types of vegetation. But for the Classic collection, they can choose one of these. There are a couple of options in each category: xeriscape, traditional, or modern. The Cadence collection is a little bit more standardized on the smaller lots. We don't have one yet for the 25 collection because it's newer. And then on the townhomes, it's really limited to that front yard area, the frontage of the properties. They have very small yard areas, and that will be what's fronting onto Santa Fe Meadows Drive and then internally within the development. And because the rear is pretty much all parking driveways. And then I mentioned about the parking. There have been questions on that about the standard length of a driveway for parking that is required is 20 feet. A lot of people say, well, you know, that people don't park like this right up to the nose of the garage and they've got hitches and all sorts. Well, your typical local street cross section, which is the one we've used through the majority of the development, has an additional 2.5 feet at the back of that driveway before you actually get to the sidewalk. So our biggest concern always is not to interrupt that sidewalk. So that provides ample space for parking on the driveway. In the townhome area, it is a little tighter. There is a 20-foot driveway that is the minimum. Some of the lots, because I think you can see from the previous slide, they're staggered. So the ones that are staggered backwards slightly have an extra 2 feet of driveway. There are no sidewalks to interfere with in this private driveway, and there is opportunity to, like I say, for the homeowners association to strictly control this, so there will be no interference with the drive aisle. So I've kind of touched on this as we've gone through, but I wanted to look specifically of how this project conforms with the approved preliminary PUD plan. So in terms of the uses, it's within the range of uses of residential that were identified for Area D, but the use table specifically noted multifamily. So this is this use is subject to the approval of the major PUD amendment. So if that is approved, then this will be consistent with that requirement. And our basis for believing that this is a positive change to the plan is the reduction in density, the introduction of more single family for sale lots, and just as a result of that, which again we'll touch on, is a reduction in traffic as well. So we've met or exceeded all the building setbacks and the landscape setbacks. Again, noted that the 50-foot setback for residential on that south boundary has either been met or exceeded. At the narrowest point, we're at 50 feet, but generally it's much wider than that. There was no requirements on lot coverage. We've determined those with this final PUD plan. And generally, the town standards are 2 spaces per unit for the residential. Some are slightly less, but we are meeting that with not only our driveway parking, but our garage parking. In most cases, are all 2-car garages. There is with the Cadence an option for a 1-car, but there's also the ability to park in the driveway, so that requirement is met. I want to talk a little bit about USAFA considerations that a little bit more detail. So as noted, one of their concerns was compatibility, primarily with the training operations at Jacks Valley and future use of the Aardvark Airfield, which is to the north of the Air Force Academy. They were asking for some sort of conservation easements or deed restrictions across the property. That was not really tenable to the landowner, who has been planning this development for some time, and residential has been shown as an allowed use on this property since it was rezoned in 2020. And the preferred route is to try and accommodate their concerns in other ways. So as noted, we have the 50-foot landscape buffer, and we did expand the noise report. So the noise report was required with the preliminary PUD plan for residential, primarily based on its proximity to I-25 and the railroad. But and that's what the initial report analysed. We expanded that report to look into potential noise from the Air Force Academy training exercises as well, which I'll talk about in more detail. They've consistently, pretty much with every project that we've proposed on this site and others in the area, expressed concerns about stormwater discharge, and in particular how it impacts downstream facilities and protected habitat within the Air Force Academy. They asked to review the stormwater plans in more depth. We have provided them with they have a copy of the drainage report. They have been able to review the preliminary utilities plan, and we'll be able to kind of give that further review as we move forward through the process. So the proposed stormwater facilities on the site, though, have been designed to accommodate runoff from this development and detaining water for 72 hours and releasing it less than historic rates, which is required by drainage criteria. But also it is a measure that helps protect the Air Force Academy's downstream facilities. Their concern was expressed as uncontrolled stormwater runoff. That is not what is happening here. It is going to be very controlled in a manner which meets approved drainage criteria. Impact on military missions from noise complaints with the new subdivision. That was one of their primary concerns, was that the new residents would complain about activities at the Air Force Academy. That is a comment we get consistently from the Air Force Academy, and we are very familiar with including noise notices on the final plat maps, as well as in the sales documents for the lots and homes, and also including an navigation easement, which is really just an easement over the property, which says, by the way, there is going to be noise from the Air Force Academy, so don't complain, is effectively what the navigation easement says. So we have complied with all those requirements, the disclosures and so on. There was also some concern about residents trespassing onto the active training area. I was a little skeptical about this one. I don't really see that happening. People will likely use the Santa Fe Trail as recreational, but the Air Force Academy boundary and facility is clearly marked. I've never seen anybody trespassing on there that isn't allowed to go on the Air Force Academy. And I see Mr. Trujillo is grinning, so you probably have different opinion on that, but okay. But we have agreed to, and this was at the request of the Air Force Academy, and we're going to continue working with them on the exact wording of these signs, but they've asked for specific signs where the property interacts with the trail. So signs as you're going onto the trail to let people know that the Air Force Academy is a no trespass area. So clearly to mark that, and that's an evolving process. And we set up a good kind of correspondence with Amy Kelly at the Air Force Academy to make sure that those things are implemented. And we included notes on our plans to commit the developer to implementing those. There was concern about increased in ambient light from the development. With the single family residential, this is significantly better than it would be if it were multifamily or industrial uses, which tend to have much larger pole lighting. The single family will be just your standard residential development, porch, garage, deck lights, and so on, as well as MVA street lights, which are the standard for the town. So there's going to be no significant light emanating from this property. And there is quite a significant bluff as well between this property and the training area. So, as noted, noise report was completed and assessed additional. We had a meeting with the Air Force Academy. That's when they agreed to provide us with their noise reports, and also noted that there was a major training event, which I believe was also in the press, in April at 16th and 17th. So we agreed to go back out and do specific noise measurements on the site during that training activity. Our noise consultant even called my client, to double check that he had the dates right, because he really couldn't hear a great deal of activity from the training activities at Jacks Valley. But the study evaluated all this, as well as the noise from I-25 and the railroad, and made a series of conclusions. There's no noise mitigation required due to impacts from the highway or the railroad, because the noises were not, the development set back enough and has enough kind of separation and a grading difference to minimize those noise sources. The 65 decibel contour for Davis Field is several miles away from the project, so no mitigation is required for that. The project is not within the 130 decibel contour for small arms range activities, so that suggests that the land use for residential is compatible with this source of noise. And this was corroborated when they did the noise survey during the training exercise, which said there was really no audible small arms noise on the project during the April training event. So they didn't believe that noise mitigation is required for that activity. It's a little bit less clear with the 130 dB contour for maximum rated blast operations, because it's not clear where that is from the information the Air Force Academy gave us. So we're going to try and find out more information about that. But no blast operations were audible at the project site when the training event was taking place. So the conclusion in the noise report, there's no additional noise mitigation that would be required to address those concerns. So the concerns basically about training operations at Jacks Valley during a major training event, not just regular training during a major weekend long, well, it wasn't weekend, but major training event, the noises weren't even audible from this site. And then regarding the airfield, it's currently closed. We don't know, and nor did the Air Force Academy know if or when or how it might be used in the future. So it's really impossible to analyze noise associated with something that may happen in the future. On the traffic side of things, as noted, we have done a number of traffic studies over the years on this property associated with the sketch plan, and then updated with a phase 2 preliminary plan to reduce the amount of industrial and residential the residential was the same as at the sketch plan. That was what was analyzed, because that was what we initially submitted. It ultimately got reduced to the 500 unit maximum towards the end of the process, but the traffic study wasn't updated because we'd actually reduced the number. As noted, CDOT initially were proposing a traffic signal, but they decided to change to a roundabout, and during that process, which was in November 2022, they took the traffic studies for this development and the development to the north of Baptist Road, as well as other projects in the area, to analyze the design of the roundabout and the likely traffic onto that roundabout. We did a specific traffic generation analysis for Santa Fe Meadows, which was really just comparing what the trip generation is anticipated to be with this project versus what was what it was anticipated to be with the approved preliminary PUD plan. And clearly with a 59% reduction in density, there is substantially less traffic being generated with the Santa Fe Meadows development than the approved multifamily 500 multifamily units. So traffic as a whole is an improvement from what was originally planned. And Terrazzo Drive and the roundabout and other surrounding road networks, roads and intersection won't be impacted because they've been designed for much higher traffic volumes. So that was the conclusion of the traffic study. I want to talk a little bit about emergency access because concerns were expressed about this during the preliminary plan process and the filing 3 plat approval process, because that was the plat that extended the road into this area. As noted, the whole thing is being designed for much higher density than we're currently proposing. But at the time of the filing 3 submittal, the fire department did review the design, because that's when we got into the detailed design of the road, to ensure that it was adequate to provide access into this area as the only primary access into the site. They approved the design as appropriate for fire protection purposes. The road design is a 50-foot right-of-way that has two 12-foot travel lanes, a 12-foot center lane, and 5-foot bike lanes either side, in addition to the curb and gutter. So there is plenty of room to comfortably accommodate 3 lanes of egress if a traffic has to evacuate, as well as 1 lane in a contraflow coming into the site for emergency vehicles. That's how it would be controlled by the fire department. And we've also had some correspondence with El Paso County Parks Department about the use of the Santa Fe Trail, and they say that it can be used for emergency vehicle access, and if authorized by emergency services, also for evacuation of residents. So that provides a secondary route. It is not a formal secondary point of access. I want to emphasize that. It won't be used on a regular basis. It is just purely for emergencies. And then in addition to that, the fire district has, as you may know, purchased the property next to the Quick Trip on Squadron Drive for a new fire station. So we're going to have a fire station very close to this site as well. And I just wanted to provide the correspondence or the suggested kind of note that the Parks Department sent to us. This will probably require a tweak to our plan just to allow an emergency access from our cul-de-sac at the northwest corner of the property to the Denala treatment facility access road, but the grade allows for that, so that's a simple addition. And that will provide the required emergency access via Denala access road and to get onto the Santa Fe Trail. And then they say that it can be used as noted for emergency vehicle access, as well as the last line, if absolutely necessary, to evacuate residents. Their preference, obviously, as the fire department's preference, is that they access on Terrazzo, but for any reason that may be blocked, there is an alternate route. I'm not going to go through this in detail. If you have questions about it, I'm happy to answer them, but we've obtained all our necessary environmental approvals, which primarily related to the crossing of Jackson Creek with the road, and also a determination that the aquatic resources on this southern part of the site, there are some ponded areas, are not considered waters of the US and are non-jurisdictional. So that means we can fill them, and we also got confirmation from Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment that the dredge and fill authorization is not required. That's a new requirement that they've just introduced, but because we have the adjudication that these are non-jurisdictional, that is not required. And then finally, we had our FEMA CLOMA approved, which is the conditional letter of map revision relating to the crossing of Jackson Creek and associated channelization a while ago, but we just got the actual confirmed letter of map revision, which you get after the work has been completed, and that is effective in October. And just running through the criteria, the PUD, I've already talked about how we're consistent. Obviously, we need that amendment to the land use, but other than that, we're consistent. We talked about access, circulation, and emergency access, and believe we are compliant with that requirement. We have more than enough functional parks and open space. And we are, one of the criteria is to provide a variety of development and housing types, mixed land use. So within the entirety of Falcon Commerce Centre, a mix of land uses has always been proposed, and this is bringing that residential component to that mix, which was originally anticipated. Building design, we have our specific standards relating to building design. I showed you some examples. We believe it's high quality building design, as is a feature of classic communities throughout Monument area and elsewhere. Quality landscaping with Xeric design to conserve water, that is encouraged, and we will be encouraging quality landscaping. More than adequate off-street parking, and it fits in with the surrounding land use pattern as it's been planned to be part of that land use pattern. Sorry, that was a bit lengthy, but I tried to cover everything that we've heard in the past from Planning Commission, and hopefully that will limit the questions you have, and have answered many of them, but happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate it. Is this public? Move to public comment? Move to public comment. Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, sorry. Yes. So we'll move to public comment. Anybody online?
Again, I apologize.
Anybody online, present online that may raise your hand online for public comment?
I don't see anyone at this time online who would like to raise their hand to comment.
Okay. Anybody in the room from the public? Anybody have questions that come up to the stand? Okay. I think that closes public comment. Thank you. And then we can move to commissioners. Commissioner Hatch, do you want to go for kick us off?
I just have a few house cleaning questions. The HOA, it'll be an HOA group, correct? And trash will be done on one day? Or do the individual owners pick their trash company? Okay. Okay.
Steve Slosher, Elite Properties. Yes, it'll be managed by the HOA. So it'll be included in the HOA dues. So then that will be determined by which trash company they select and then managed, like a lot of the communities throughout the Monument area.
Have we spoken with Lewis Palmer Schools about busing and access? Does it seem like have they seen the area as easy to navigate?
And I believe, Andrea, that you can address that one from the school district side.
I believe the school district are a review agency. They usually are for residential development. They have provided no comments. The streets have been designed to accommodate emergency vehicles and buses. So all their turning requirements and the loops road system as well helps with that access for all vehicles, really, not just buses, emergency vehicles, delivery vehicles, and so on and so forth.
And then the final question is the 25 parking spaces for the 70 homes.
Mm-hmm.
Is that standard? Where do we get that number as the number for parking spaces?
There isn't a requirement, so that's just a number that we have proposed based on what space was available and what we could accommodate. We try to maximize that parking primarily for guests, but as noted, there is parking on the adjacent streets outside of the townhome area as well.
Okay. And thank you.
Shivamar?
Thank you. I have a few questions. In reference to the housing products, the parks, the play area, access at the south end of the property, is that open for public use? Or is it just for the homeowners who live in that area?
No, the trail system through the community and interconnects with the Santa Fe Trail and the parks, that's all for public use. So as somebody were coming down the Santa Fe Trail and they pulled off on their bike with their kids and their tow behind, they can enjoy the park, work through the community, and then get back on the trail, head south or north or whatever it may be.
Okay, because yeah, the parks, trails, open space at the southern end of the community, so it is open for public.
And that's where the trail connection comes through. And then there's a track there with benches and everything, a resting area, so they could actually cut through the community and rest and enjoy the park as well.
Okay, so by your statement, are you saying that the only way to access that is they have to use the Santa Fe Trail, or they?
I think
Can they
that's
park
probably
on-
going to, no, I'm just saying that because I think that's going to be probably the most, but they could come by car, walk, whatever it may be.
Okay,
I think access is going to be most people off the Santa Fe Trail as a stopover.
right, and the roads, the one road that goes in through the housing unit, is that private, or is it gonna be managed by the town as far as maintenance and snow removal?
That's
patches?
part of the town. The private roads are only in the townhome section, which is on the very eastern side of the property.
Okay, and the reason I ask is because we see this in other subdivisions, especially with things like overnight parking. And they're getting letters from their HOA or whomever saying, you know, they're threatening to tow my car because we have 4 cars. So of course we have to park on the street because we don't have adequate parking. But I know the town of Monument, you know, we allow parking in the street overnight as long as it's not an abandoned vehicle. But
Mhm.
from what was presented, it sounds as if they're not allowed to park, say, in the townhome side in the street overnight. Is that correct?
No. No, there's parking strips over there for guests as well. The private streets don't have parking inside the townhomes area, but the public street with the 50-foot right of way has parking on and on the outside there.
Okay, so what am I missing with overnight parking then that was presented?
It's generally done for like leaving your camper out of, like you're trying to charge.
So
Yeah, the HOA guidelines typically, depending on the driveway space, you can have 2 cars in the driveway. But yeah, what like you're referring to, campers, things like that can't be left just like any coveted community for an extra length of time.
okay, tracking. Next, you talked about USAFA raising concerns about operational security, things like that, and your mitigation measures. One of the things that I could recommend is a low to no cost mitigation that you didn't present, and you presented it for, you know, perhaps trespassing and security, but one of the biggest problem that a lot of military installations are having are with drones. And when I look at the property line, the no-fly zone for drones is really close. I would say within a mile or 2, maybe a couple miles from your housing. So I don't know if it's something you can, to new homeowners, like put on the HOA website or whatnot, post the FAA website, let them know that, hey, be advised, you're near a military installation, drone usage is limited, be safe. You know, in other words, you're deterring people and making them do the right thing. And just say, hey, you know, just for your situational awareness, and that's what really matters. And that way we kind of answer USAFA's concerns without any cost to you, really.
Absolutely. And we have had 2 meetings with Miss Kelly, and I believe it's how you say it, Leggety, Colonel Leggety. And they have offered up to, as we talk through the trespassing language and everything, it's like, if you have what your recommendations are, we will use that inside our site because we want to be good partners. We respect what they're doing over on, you know, on that side and trying to maintain the security along that side. And Commissioner, I agree, there's probably people that try to trespass. I might even have seen a couple mountain bikers jump off and try to go through the Boy Scout camp to get on the trail. So we're working hand in hand with them. We're looking for them. What type of language? What would you like to see as we post that? What can we put on the plat, like Andrea referenced, and all the way through the process? So they've been good to work with on that front and going through the process and helping us understand what they want to see as we put 205 homes there.
Okay. And the airfield you said was closed. Where is that located in relation to the southernmost point? Yes.
It is due south of there. And the activity that they reference on that is drone activity and limited activity. They said there might be a possibility. So as they do exercise and stuff, maybe a helicopter, something like that. But they had no definite, as the Department of War is working through and revamping their exercises in that area. There's a lot of unknowns what they're going to be seeing in the future too, far as exercise timing and things like that. The one thing that was important is they gave us a lot of information with the major training exercises to do an advanced environmental sound study. So we had a lot of equipment out there during that time. And with the information came back, there wasn't high levels of noise in that area. I think they did a couple pass-bys with F-16s, but as residents here, we all know that's a Saturday football game. You know, they break out the planes and fly over the stadium as well.
Okay, that's all I have for right now. Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Banner, I just wanted to interject, just to kind of support your question and concern about public access to the Parks and Trail network. There is a specific plan note on the PUD that defines that those are open for the public use.
Commissioner Trio.
First and foremost, thank you for cutting down the density. On behalf of Monument and all the citizens that are out here, to push it down to 205, thank you. Now my concerns. The air installation compatibility use zones. Are you familiar with that manual that the Air Force uses in order to identify those potential hazards associated with those aircraft? You're familiar with those?
We're not. That is not anything that came up in our
Sure.
meeting with the Colonel or Miss Kelly.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm very familiar with them in the context of work I've been doing adjacent to Peterson Air Force Base and other installations, but that was not something that they referenced as being applicable to this project.
Perfect.
When we met with them.
And again, I'm in full support of this 100%, surprisingly. Okay. Because I know what it would have cost on the other end. So I thank you for doing it. But again, my concerns are still relevant. And I say this because when we look at the air installation compatibility use zone, aircraft noise is always going to be there. It's a mitigation factor that we'll truly have to attend to in the future. Those individuals that get into the land property 5-10 years down the road, they're going to complain. Happens at every military base. We get it. Accident potential, though, becomes another mitigating factor that, you know, we should actually look into, work with the Air Force Academy, my recommendation across the board, because we do have those graduations every year with those aircraft that do fly over, and all the Air Force games that are here. Aircraft do have malfunctions and there could be a catastrophe. So just actually address it. My request. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just asking. Mission encroachment, it's real. Palmer Land Conservatory, the Trust for Public Lands, the Nature Conservatory actively have a program called the SOAR program. Are you familiar with it?
Not specifically, but I believe that was potentially the program that Amy was referencing when she suggested.
I'm going to give this to
conservation.
NCS to say I would love for you to become a part of that program that literally stipulates why the Air Force is taking full frontal attack and why the individual Nature Conservatory, Palmer Land Conservatory, and Trust for Public Lands are truly focused on these not encroachments, these lands that can be used so much more beneficial for the public with conservation easements, but with the landowners fully intact to get the full benefit of their ownership. Inside that, you'll see that draft that protects a dome around all of Colorado. And right now it's actively working in order to work with agricultural lands to the east, all the way down to the Pueblo corridor. And I don't know if those are lands in the future that you're going to be looking at, but I would definitely reach out to the Trust for Public Lands to work solutions to problems like this by mitigating that density across the board. So that's really a comment on that part.
Thank you for that. I see most of them are very far out in eastern El Paso County where development density is significantly restricted to primarily rural.
There's, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's growing bigger and bigger. So I
Okay.
would ask for
Well,
you
thank
to
you for
take a
that.
look at
Yes.
that across the
Okay.
board. Last piece, the encroachment. One of the guides at the Air Force Academy, obviously with 30 years in the Marine Corps retiree and working there with the Air Force Academy for wildlife mitigation, things along that lines. We know that that northern boundary, just like the southern boundary, there's a gentleman over there, works with Kelly, with the Natural Resource Center, that right now to the south with Rock Rimmon,
Yeah.
those individual families that literally butt right up against the abatement associated with the Air Force Academy, they're going to be erecting an 8-foot fence.
They have erected I live over there and they
Yeah.
have erected an 8-foot fence.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I don't back onto the Air Force Academy, but a lot of people aren't happy about it, but it was needed because yes, I witnessed
My recommendation would be work with the Air Force Academy. Don't make the assumption that that northern boundary is not going to be crossed. It gets crossed all the time by those residents that believe that their dog has right of way and they have to go onto the academy, even though it's a federal reservation. There's no prosecution associated with those individuals that do trespass.
Yeah.
My only request would be to help mitigate that problem for national security, to preserve those lands for those Air Force cadets that are doing that training.
Yes. Yeah, we're very cognizant of that. And we can only control or try to control the people who be living in this development. We can't, influence everybody who's using the Santa Fe Trail. And there's, based on information we have from El Paso County, there's a substantial foot and bike traffic using the Santa Fe Trail that's outside of this development.
100%.
Yep.
I would say work with Air Force because
Yep.
be that good neighbor, not only by reducing the density, by putting just those houses there, but be that good neighbor for the national security of that Air Force Academy for the future of those cadets.
Okay, sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you. Agreed. I think we could be looking at a lot of different uses on this property and it looks very well, planned out, lots of open space and connections to Santa Fe Trail. What size sidewalks were we planning for the connection to Santa Fe Trail? Do we have that?
I can't
The width?
quite remember, but I have the plans. I think it's just a 5-foot continuation connection to Santa Fe Trail, which will be concrete, but it will have to transition to gravel. And that's going to be part of the license agreement with the El Paso County Parks Department, similar to how we've treated it elsewhere.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Thanks.
You already answered my question. One of them was the wastewater plant. It looks like it's right adjacent and there's currently roadway connection. So we'll just go through the cul-de-sac to provide that. And private roads are maintained by HOA. Is that, I'm assuming?
HOA or district.
Yeah. Either one. I think everybody else kind of already asked my questions, so I think that covers it for me. Appreciate your guys' presentation.
Other questions?
Mr. Vice Chair, I just did want to confirm I have my eyes on the plan and it is in fact 5-foot width trail.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Next, I think we can move to a motion.
Sure. I do also just want to mention it wasn't anyone held up on, but we do also have our town engineer, Shelley Koba, here. If anyone had any questions on drainage or stormwater for the project, of course, we would be available at any time to answer any questions on that. But if you think it's something you'd like to direct her way this evening, she was kind enough to be in attendance today.
Thank you for attending.
Sure. Ray has been so kind as to bring my slide up for some verbiage for you for recommended motion. I did also provide in front of you our kind of new standard for providing a recommendation of approval. So when you're making each of your motions, the first one being the major PUD amendment is mostly strictly based on the findings of fact that staff had found. So that might be a good way to go with that one. However, when you move to your recommendation regarding the final PUD, you're going to want to tie that recommendation to the final PUD plan meeting any version or all of these items listed in the review criteria. I did highlight in bold some of the more relevant sections, just to kind of bring your eye to those to make it a little easier because there's a lot of text there. I would say take your time and consider which ones you're including with your recommendation. We're in no hurry and go from there. You have some language there for you if you need, and I'm again available for any questions going through that process.
Okay, thank you. One clarifying question is the review criteria you listed as suggestions, is that available to the public review, or is that just with the commissioners?
The review criteria is strictly for approval or recommendation of the project specifically, so that would be for your review,
Okay,
not the
thank you.
public's.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
We can start with motion one, based on staff recommendations and findings and presentations here tonight. I motion to forward the recommendation of approval to the town council for Falcon Commerce Center Phase 2 preliminary PUD major amendment, supported by the attached and linked documents and by finding of fact as listed in the staff report.
I second it. Donna Hatch.
Thank you. We can move to motion two, similar based on staff recommendation and findings and presentation. I moved forward a recommendation of approval. So, oh, yes, thank you.
Yes, motion 2 will come after once the Santa Fe Meadows PUD has been presented. So we're just doing motion 1 right now.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
As its approval would be the contingency for moving forward with the final PUD plan.
That makes sense. Thank you.
And with the motion and the second, I will start roll call. So Vice Chair Peterson, you already provided your motion recommend approval. Commissioner Baumer.
Yes.
If I might highlight again, we'll want to, you can either support the original recommendation findings based on staff findings of fact. If you would, you can just say that you support the same rationale for your recommendation being the findings of fact in the staff report, just for the record.
I support moved forward the recommendation of approval due to staff findings of fact.
Thank you. Commissioner Hatch.
Yes, based on the staff's finding of fact related to the request.
Thank you. And Commissioner Trujillo.
My question is this, I recommend approval with review criteria number 10, the final PDU or PUD has shown to fit within the context of the planned use pattern and roadway and utility systems of the larger surrounding area.
Thank you, Commissioner. Motion passes 4 in favor, none opposed.
Okay, now we can move to motion 2. Okay. Sure. Based on staff recommendation and presentation here tonight and findings of fact, move to forward a recommendation of approval to the town council for the Santa Fe Meadows final PUD plan within phase 2 of the Falcon Commerce preliminary PUD plan, supported by the attached and linked documents and by the finding of fact as listed in the staff report, and with the following conditions of approval. 1, approval of the final PUD plan for Santa Fe Meadows is contingent upon town council approval of the proposed major PUD amendment for Falcon Commerce Center Phase 2 preliminary PUD. And number 2, submittal of the final plat application materials for Santa Fe Meadows final PUD shall include a geotechnical report in order to address the presence of shallow groundwater in the proximity to the proposed detention ponds.
My apologies, Vice Chair. At this point, we'll move on to the staff presentation for the PUD.
No, we done.
Wait.
Oh, it's all together? Oh, I'm so sorry. I was misunderstanding. My apologies.
Thank you for making sure we're covered. Do I have a second?
Please continue. Sorry.
I second the motion.
Sorry.
No worries. Thanks for making sure we're covered.
No, you're good. Anyway, Commissioner Baumer.
I second the motion to forward for recommendation of approval of Santa Fe Meadows final PUD plan based on the request meeting the following review criteria 2 through 8 and number 10.
Thank you. Commissioner Hatch.
I moved forward the recommendation of approval for the Santa Fe final PUD plan based on the request meeting the following review criteria for the application type. That would be review criteria 1, 4, and 10.
Thank you. Commissioner Trujillo.
I move to forward the recommendation of approval for the Santa Fe Meadows final PUD plan based on request meeting following review criteria. Review criteria number 4.
Thank you. Motion passes 4 in favor, none opposed.
Do also just want to add a staff note that while we will be forwarding the recommendation of approval as voted on this evening, staff will be including the notes of concern along to town council as well. Those including noise concerns due to training, suggestion for mitigation related to drones, and Commissioner Trujillo's concerns about aircraft accident potential and noise, and a suggestion for coordination with the applicant and those agencies. So those will be passed along with the recommendation as well.
Thank you. I think that concludes that portion of tonight. Thank you for your presentation and being here tonight. Moving on to item number 7, workshop public items.
We don't have anything. I just wanted to note for the commissioners that next month we are going to have a very bulky schedule, and I anticipate the month after and probably for the next 3 months it will be a very bulky schedule. We will be coordinating with you as much as possible to be letting you know. I do believe we will have the joint workshop at our next meeting in July, together with 3 land development applications. So I would be prepared for a little bit longer of an evening, but we're ready for that if you are. So just wanted to give you that heads up. And we had to push off at least 1 application to the following month because next month is too busy. So I anticipate August being very full as well. So that's just a heads up for you. As an additional note, I appreciate those of you who have turned in those design standard surveys for me. If the last few are able to also check your email and do those surveys, that'd be fantastic. Mr. Ungerleider was so helpful in to create a very easy and accessible survey out of the questions and comments that we had related to our metal building discussion previously. So it's an easy look and an easy answer. So that would be so great if you could get those last items to me. That's all I have. If Mr. Ungerleider has something additional.
Good evening. This was fun. I actually kind of enjoyed sitting down here and just listening. I wanted to thank you. There's a lot being thrown at you, little changes in how we're presenting and what we're asking for you when you're making your motions and so on. I want to clarify that you're still voting. And the reason you're being asked to kind of throw in what your justification for is just to help keep a focus on why we do and what we do, and that is that we're administering the code and that we're making sure that we're using the code to either support or not support a project. I think we'll kind of help to refine that process for you for future, so we don't feel like we're tripping on our tongues, so to speak, while we're going through it. But it really helps to keep us focused, and it also helps to keep the development community really focused on what your duties are to administer the code and use the code in making your recommendations. And this will help strengthen your recommendations when they get to the council. So they don't have to go through the whole process over again. They can rely on the Plan Commission for doing the hard work and hearing the testimony. So I wanted to thank you for that. And again, it's fun being able to observe it from a little bit of a distance. So I appreciated that chance. So thank you.
Well, everything you mentioned, Mr. Ungerleider, is true. I like the implementation of using the review criteria, not only for the reasons mentioned, but it's a protection of your recommendation. If we were to be challenged on any of the recommendations and they were not tied to code, that would be very difficult to defend. So I really like the direction we're going, and I appreciate the flexibility that we're doing that.
Quick question. Obviously, that being said, deliberately, I only gave you 1 code. Because again, behind the scenes, what I'm thinking is that each one of those codes, to blanket what the Planning Commission is saying is true, there are mitigating factors that could be, you're looking at it from the code's perspective, but we're looking at it not only from the code's perspective, but also the residents within the community. Is that a true statement?
I understand.
Is that each one of those codes, to blanket what the Planning Commission is saying is true, there are mitigating factors that could be, you're looking at it from the code's perspective, but we're looking at it not only from the code's perspective, but also the residents within the community. Is that a true statement?
I understand what you're saying, and it's a great point. I may complement that with the idea that there are some land development applications that will be in front of you for review that will include the requirement or review criteria that defines neighborhood compatibility, conformance with the comprehensive plan, or conformance with providing parks and trails as appropriate for the residents. There'll be things that are more applicable to providing that broader suggestions and thoughts, but we do always want to be sure that even if we're having a thought that seems a little off to the side, that maybe we can tie it to one of the review criteria. We're always going to want to be tying a thought we have back to the review criteria. So in thinking of that in your previous thoughts, I was going through this list and thinking how or are any of these able to be tied to that, even kind of side directly, and I wasn't able to identify any specifically. So I appreciate you being able to go a little off to the side and trust that we'll forward that concern to town council as well, but sticking to these review criteria, because ultimately that is the purview of the planning commission overall, is the land development code. And we want to highlight those concerns for town council, that it was noticed and we all were digging into the plan enough to take care in that, but that we were doing the land development work and the code related work for them, and they're handling those external issues and concerns that you may have.
But I would add to you that your job is to follow the code.
Sure.
If there are side concerns, you're welcome to express those, but your decisions have to be based on the code. And
Sure.
the findings of fact are that's explicitly what you're responsible for adhering to. So, and then the minutes from your meeting and the video, because we all get to watch it. I'm sure you all go home tonight and watch it again and again. That the council gets to watch that. The public gets to watch that. They'll read the minutes that you approve every week at every meeting later. Actually, I wish we could approve it sooner, but we have to write them first and bring it back to you a month later. But those same minutes are brought to them, and we'll have those details and concerns or kudos or whatever you might have in this meeting in summarized in those minutes. And council does read them.
Yeah.
We've had typos in them before, and they will let us know that we made an error. So I know they're reviewing them very carefully before they make a decision. So, but this practice that we're trying to work with right now is really to get all of us to focus in on those findings of fact. Council, on the other hand, doesn't need to necessarily follow those findings of fact. That supports their decision. They can listen to the public. They can turn. They can add. They can send it back and say, we really have these concerns, we'd like that discussed with Plan Commission. Our goal is to not have that happen. Our goal is to make sure that we have all the testimony and all the discussion here, and that we have a sound decision by the Plan Commission that allows the council to move forward. The dream is to be able to put it on the consent agenda and nod, and it gets approved at the council, because they have big topics to talk about. That won't happen, but that's always our goal, is to get them to rely on the Plan Commission to make good, sound decisions.
Thank you for the feedback and background information. That it on your end? Next meeting is July 8th, 2026 at 6 p.m. That is it. Then can I have a motion to adjourn?
Commissioner Trujillo request a motion to adjourn today's commission meeting.
Donna Hatch seconds.
All in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion adjourned at 7:45.